What's going on YouTube, and welcome back once again to the channel. And before we get into today's video, make sure to subscribe and sack that like button. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing my top 5 running backs currently in the NFL. I'm going to be doing this for each position, top 5. So yeah, my critique for this will be statistical production and what do they bring to their team in the receiving game and in the rushing game. You got to take into consideration what the back brings to the table as a receiving back, because that's a major part of football today, but obviously the running attack is more important. So without further ado, let's begin. Coming in at number 5, I have Joe Mixon, who, coming off of 2021, rushed for the most yards he ever had in a single season. He had 1,205 yards rushing this year, along with 13 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns. He had 16 touchdowns in total. He averaged 4.1 yards per carry, which is pretty good, and considering that he didn't have a good offensive line, is pretty impressive actually. And in the receiving game, not anything amazing, but a solid 314 yards receiving. Joe Mixon, I think, has emerged over the last couple of years as one of the better running backs of the NFL. Had a slow 2020 season, but bounced back nicely this season. I think Joe Mixon, he's one of these running backs who can be a good power back and also be a good elusive back and receiving back. And in a pass-heavy team, to have the kind of production he has is pretty impressive. And to add to it, it's really no running back a committee there. I mean, he's really the lead guy, their main runner. Coming in at number 4, I have Dalvin Cook of the Minnesota Vikings, who might be the most elusive and slippery running back in the NFL. He's coming off of a season where he had 1,159 yards. Season before that, he had over 1,500 yards. He averaged 4.7 yards a carry this past season. And in the receiving game, not too much, 224 yards receiving, because when I think of Dalvin Cook, I think he can be a great receiving back, but not much of a factor this season. But Dalvin Cook, he's not really a bruiser back, but he's so tough to tackle in the open field, and I think people underestimate his straight line speed, and he really is what makes that Vikings offense run, because yes, I understand they have Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, one of the better wide receiver duos in the NFL, but I feel like that system thrives because of Dalvin Cook, because the way the passing game works for the Vikings is by play action, and the play action works because teams are expecting them to run, and that's because of Dalvin Cook. And Dalvin Cook, he also has a good partner in crime in Alexander Madison, who comes in on some power situations. So Dalvin Cook, I think, is one of the better running backs in the league, and I have him coming in at number 4 here. Coming in at number 3, I have Nick Chubb, who, despite has gotten a lot of carries taken away from him over the last couple of years because of Kareem Hunt being there, the two-headed monster at running back, but he has still had a 1,000-yard season over the last 3 years, but in particular focusing on most recent, because again, this is the best right now. He had over 1,200 yards rushing, along with 8 rushing touchdowns and 1 receiving touchdown. He averaged a total of 0.5 yards per carry this season, which is extremely impressive. This guy's just a straight power back. He really doesn't offer much in the receiving game, maybe in screen passes, but overall he's just a bruiser. He's your classic running back, gonna stiff arm people and truck right over them. Nick Chubb, I think he's gonna be a big part of this Cleveland Browns offense this upcoming season, because I think it's gonna be a run heavy team with and without Deshaun Watson. Now, this upcoming spot, number 2, may surprise some of you. Derrick Henry coming in at number 2. Derrick Henry is been the most dominant running back in the NFL over the last 3 years, but he's coming off of a major injury that knocked him out for the final 9 games of the regular season. When he did play, he averaged 117.1 yards per game. He was on a monster track, and he had already rushed for 10 touchdowns. And, this may seem unfair. Okay, he got injured. How are you going to penalize him for getting injured? When you're not playing, you're not playing. And I'm also taking into consideration that Derrick Henry in the last 6 years has gotten over 1,400 carries in the regular season alone. He's been extremely overused by the Tennessee Titans. They have leaned on him for a very long time now, and now he's coming off of an ACL injury. And when he came back against the Bengals in that playoff game, he didn't play bad, but he didn't look the same. And now I get, it's an off season. He may be fully back next season. So I may look back on this and think, what the heck was I thinking? But I think we're going to see Derrick Henry lose a step this season. Usually running backs who get overused in their first, 3-4 years, in this case, his first 6 years, we see them drop off quickly. And Derrick Henry has been overused, and he's coming off of a big injury. And I don't think, unlike the number one guy on this list, he's not he doesn't bring as much to the table. He's the best power running back that the NFL has seen over the last decade, possibly, but he offers nothing in the receiving game, and he's not really elusive. Coming in at number one, I have Jonathan Taylor, and building on what I was saying with Derrick Henry, I think Jonathan Taylor's the better back because he literally offers everything. He brings everything to the table. He's a good power back who can make those tough, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 plays. But then he's also a great elusive back that you can hit with screen passes, do little pitches to, and, set the edge and get off the edge. And then he's just, like I said, a great receiving back who can do it all. I mean, he can stiff arm you, he can truck you, he can juke you, he can spin away, and he has tremendous speed. So he's literally like a combination of Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook. Let me put it that way. And he's younger than Derrick Henry, and he's not coming off of a major injury. What makes me sick to the stomach is that just 2 years ago, when Jonathan Taylor was in the draft, the Chiefs passed up on him and drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been a solid back so far. I think injuries is what's held him back. I think if he could stay healthy, he could be a top 10 running back in the NFL because he showed that he can be a bell cow running back for them. And I think he's going to have a breakout year this year. But think about Jonathan Taylor in this offense. I mean, that would be crazy in that Chiefs offense. But that's besides the point. Jonathan Taylor only had 1 fumble last year despite getting so many carries. 1 fumble in 2020, and 4 fumbles last year. But when you fumble 4 times, you open your eye a bit. But the thing is, this guy touched the ball rushing 332 times and received the ball a total of 40 times. He almost had 400 touches on the year. That is 400 touches in a year on average is 24, 25 touches per game, which is pretty insane if you think about it. So he nearly rushed for 2,000 yards this season. In the receiving game, he almost hit 400 yards receiving. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry despite getting so many carries, which is hard to maintain that good average yards per carry. He also averaged 106.5 yards per game. And again, I feel like this is a guy who literally can do everything at the running back position, and he's younger than Derrick Henry. And you got to remember too, there towards the end of the season, Jonathan Taylor was the MVP frontrunner. I think at one point he had the odds to win it, but the Colts not making the playoffs definitely hurt him, even if it wasn't really his fault. And I think he's in for another big year in 2022. Comment down below what you guys think about this. Would you put Jonathan Taylor number 1? I'd say right now among NFL fans and NFL experts, it's about 50-50. It's 50% would still ride with Derrick Henry. Some would start jumping on the Jonathan Taylor bandwagon, and I'm one of those. I think he is the real deal, and I think he's the best running back in football right now. But also comment down below, who do you think I snubbed? I'm a big Christian McCaffrey fan. I think that Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, is, if not the best back in football, a top 3 back in football, but he simply hasn't been on the field enough due to injuries and just really not really being that dedicated enough to the game. So, that's on him. But yeah, but Jonathan Taylor, best back in football. Comment down below what you guys think, and other than that, I'll see you guys next time.